But let's get started on all the steps in helping you find your great place to live. Action number 1, figure out sort of where you want to live. And this is, what cities or zip codes or neighborhoods might be good for when you start looking. And I recommend that you start with, okay, look at where do you go all the time? Where do you work? Where do you maybe go to school? Where do your friends live? Where does your family live? And try to find something that's geographically logical for if you're running back and forth to those places. And when you think about that, not just the mileage, but also, how many left turns do you have to make? What's the traffic congestion like? Is there a lot of traffic lights? All that kind of stuff affects your drive time and how much time you spend each day just in the car. So once you've sort of figured out that geography, you can look on a map and say, okay, this makes sense to look in this neighborhood or this city or this zip code. And while you're at it, when you're doing the preliminary investigation, I check out the crime rates for for the areas that you're looking at, and that might, promote or eliminate some of them as well. So that's sort of action number 1, first step. Action number 2, decide what you want to rent. You can rent a house, an apartment in a complex, which is different from, maybe 5 or 6 together kind of thing. A condo, maybe you just need a room in somebody else's house. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. And you can, sort of think through, how many bedrooms do you want? Do you need to have room for a pet? Do you want to do yard maintenance, or do you just want somebody else to take care of the grass that's outside your window? Do you even need more than a bedroom while you're in college or whatever you're doing? So next stage is to figure out what you want to rent. Action 3. Now we're getting into some preliminary research. You're not actually looking yet, but you're talking to people. So the first thing I recommend is talk to people that you trust, okay? Family, friends, whoever. Hey, is there any place that you would recommend that, would be a good place to live? Or do you like this apartment complex? And listen to them seriously, because usually what they're portraying to you is the reality. So if they tell you, this place is great, or, run from this kind of rental agent or whatever, I'd recommend you take those hints and tips seriously. Number 2 is to get on some websites that list all of the rentals as they come on. Now, the best way to do this is I would recommend a Google search that says, best websites for renting a place to live. And then just sort of scan down the results page, and you'll see several websites that just keep coming up again and again and again. And those are probably the ones that are really good for your area. And then you can get onto those websites, and most of them have ways that you can put in, how many bedrooms do you want, and how many bathrooms do you want, and, what cities are you looking in, and will they accept a pet, and how big is the pet, and all this kind of stuff, whether you have a dishwasher or not. They can get down to that kind of detail. So that gives you sort of an idea. You can start looking around to see what's out there. But unless it's a brand new listing, I'd be careful of the ones that have been out there for a long time, because they might not be the greatest, or else they would have gone pretty quick. So now the next part in this little research stage is to, while you're out there researching on Google, to find a checklist or 2 or 3 on what to look for once you do see an apartment that you like. There's lots of good ones out there. So just look for, as we put in this one, apartment walkthrough checklist. Action 4. This is when it gets fun. This is when you actually get to start looking at places. So since you're on those websites, and hopefully you've set up notifications so that you get notified each time a new rental that meets your criteria comes on the market, go see them and do it quickly. This might be a good time to clear your schedule when you're actively looking for an apartment, because usually it's on a first come, first served basis. And the ones that are really good deals usually tend to go quick if it's a hopping market kind of thing. So you want to be one of the first ones on the list, so you get the chance to say yes or no before everybody else does. And this is the time to go out and see them, because what you see on a website is going to be the best of what they can show you, but you want to see the whole reality of it. And this is a good time to use that checklist that you got in the last step when you're going through a potential rental. Action number 5. This takes place when you figured out, I really like this place. This is where the reality is versus the marketing. Number 1, I would think about the person that's been showing you around and how they've treated you. Because how they treat you before you become a tenant is probably the best you'll ever see. So think about that and whether you're willing to, if you enjoy that or if you're willing to put up with it or if maybe you just want to go find another place. Number 2, it's time to jump on your phone and do reviews. Search reviews ABC apartment complex, reviews XYZ rental property company, whatever the title is of the organization that would be renting to you. And then again, scan down that results page and look for the majority, okay? So you're going to have the one-offs if somebody really loved it or really hated it, but pretty much you're looking for, great place, would love to live here again, maintenance people are wonderful, very responsive property managers, or they never respond to me. My house is falling apart around me and they will never call me back. Just get the gist of what people that have actually lived there have said. That'll give you more information to decide whether you want to live there or not. And the last phase of this action is literally, go knock on the neighbors' doors. Say, hey, I'm thinking about renting that house or that apartment that's available. What do you think about living here? Would you move here again if you had a choice? What would you have liked to have known before you moved in? And there's a whole list of questions in the description below this video that you could use for this. Most people are willing to talk to you. If they're not nice people. You might want to know that ahead of time. If you don't feel comfortable knocking on doors, maybe you want to hang out, if there's a parking area kind of thing and catch people as they come and go from their cars and, same thing. Hey, I'm thinking about renting here. Can you ask you a couple questions? I don't want you guys to become stalkers. So, keep it limited, but, get your information. Again, you're going to be living there for the next year or so, and you could be miserable or you could be thrilled. So this is the time to figure out which one you're going to be before you sign the lease, which is the next unit. But action 6 in this unit is when you've checked it all out, you know that you really want this place, double check that you qualify. The people that are renting have a set of criteria that they require for people moving in. It might include a minimum credit score. It might include a length of employment history. It might include, how much income that you have coming in. It might include, references that you can give. So hopefully you've looked at module 1, which was preparing before you got to this stage. And so you have all that information and you know where you stand. And then if you qualify, fantastic, put your application in. I hope you get it. If you don't qualify, please don't apply. Number 1, you'll lose your application money. And number 2, property manager looks at your credit report. Even if you get turned down, it's going to drop your credit score because they have what they call a hard inquiry when they look at it. And that's going to make your credit score less and lower for the next place that you might want to rent if this one doesn't work out for you. So again, make sure you qualify and then apply. So that wraps up this module on finding your ideal place. Again, all of the notes are in the description below this video. I hope you use them. And also, I hope you move on to the next module, which is on signing that lease or reading that lease and understanding it. Talk with you then.